of their chances in this event. In the bottom left-hand corner, our blue Terran player. This is going to be Cure. In the top right-hand side, our red Zerg is going to be Serral from Basilisk. Let's see how this will turn out. Kind of feels like here is the final stand here for ABYDOS, because he probably has to knock down Serral, and then he'll probably be the revived play if I had to guess as well. Which means he has to try and take down Serral, and then probably take down Reno, and he just has a lot of work to do, man. This is not going to be easy at all for our Terran player, and for ABYDOS from here. I said it before, 1-2-0 for Serral is probably manageable for ABYDOS still. Double 2-0, I don't think that's possible. I'm just going to be seeing our spawn pool coming up, so hatch gas and pool all on the way in the early few moments. A drone going to come across, a couple Reapers and an orbital commander on the way as well. Two Queens going to start coming up here on the side of Serral, so just going to get a couple of those up and running. The drones are still coming out, and this Reaper is going to make its way back around to the top, see if you can poke around a little. Of course, we've got two more Reapers coming out, an expansion behind it. Very standard kind of setup here so far. These three Reapers have really become such a common opening. For a little while we saw even more Reapers than this, but it really has just become the three Reaper party as of late, as double spore must build to protect the drones against Reaper number one. So Reaper shows up now, and Queen will start to take a few shots. Second Queen from the high ground will have to come down to help the defense. Serral does not have Lings here just yet, so it's just the Queens to defend with. Did he actually not make any Lings? It's obviously scary, but if you get away with it, that means you got a few more drones than usual, and then your economy is going to be absolutely booming compared to what you might usually expect, especially against like multiple Reapers like this. Serral moves preemptively into the main, which is very good for him. Otherwise, he would have been in trouble here, and he does for the moment deflect the Reapers once more, so still doing what he needs to do to end up in a very good place. That honestly feels very good right now if you're Serral, like I say, to defend it like this without making a single unit outside of the Queens. Very nicely done. Again, it's just a little bit of additional greed, essentially. But boy, is it making a difference for you as our Queens get here once again. Reapers will still not find anything. Yeah, that's just solid stuff from Serral. Can't say anything but that. Very, very solid stuff as Reapers get turned around. Queens were there to make sure those Reapers get pushed back. We'll go back and forth a little bit, and I mean, Serral just going to go into a lair and a roach run, so he's just going to completely bypass Lings here. He's going to go straight at roaches, and like I say, off of the kind of the economy that he's been playing with here, this actually feels as though it could be very, very good for him. So, kind of down to see how this turns out. Kind of a game where I feel like Serral might just have one very scary timing against his opponent in the near future, right? Like, you know, very possible that you just come across, you're like, hey, look, you didn't do enough to me. You really didn't slow me down. And now you're going to pay for it, essentially. Just let's see what will happen. Double Evo chamber will build, so we will start to get those roach upgrades, and we will have roach speed. Do we expect roach upgrades, or will he maybe change it to some Ling Bane behind this? I honestly feel like it's got to be roach upgrades. It's been very roach focused from Serral. It'll be kind of surprising to see him start playing anything else. He could maybe go melee, I suppose, and just play like a roach back line, and then start to, you know, buffer it up with Ling and Bane a bit further down the line here. think missiles first would make a lot more sense, and then you have a strong roach army. And then you can maybe go melee and other things behind the +1/+1 roaches. Interesting Queens will just move through, and we will drop one Overlord already. So again, a slight supply block off of this, so a little bit of damage taken. Nothing too severe though, as our roaches and our Queens come forward again. Just going to keep those medivacs back once again. Still see now 1-1 coming out. Roaches in production. You see a run around the bottom side. Marines and a Reaper or two coming across as well. As the units will not stick around too long, they're going to jump straight back into these medevacs and back away for the moment, realizing there's not really the chance to deal damage that they're looking for. Contaminate hits the factory there. Going to block a siege tank from popping. There's 5 units. Pressure in. We'll find a couple more creep tumors. Given the gold base getting set up from Serral, he is not wasting time. He's getting straight in towards the next stage of this game, isn't he? So, getting that gold base set up, getting that ready to roll. Looking to have a very strong economy for himself in these next few moments, as I do have this hatchery just coming up to being about halfway along for the moment. So, just bringing that through, getting this going. Trying to see what will be next, as we still have Zergling Speed on the way out, and 1-1 missile upgrades coming through as well. I don't think Serral is going to be overly aggressive on the roaches. I think, yeah, we even see him starting up Link Spear. I was going to say, maybe even a switch towards the melee upgrades and kind of like Lings and Banes into this mid-game may be the choice. Still building a fair few roaches, but like I said, there's a big difference between what Serral is doing in the typical, like, okay, 1-1, let's go, all in, 66 drones, let's try and bust you down. This obviously couldn't be any further from the truth of what's happening at the moment. So the Roach Ravager will show up, though, and apparently not enough defenses on Q as third, so he's going to have to give the position up for a moment or two. I believe a bit further back he will have some tanks, and he will have the counterattack as well. That at the very least is going to find creep spread here. I wonder if he can go deeper and find something extra, because it didn't feel like Serral had a lot of units left back at home. Maybe just the reinforced units that had been popping out recently. But yeah, Kyo didn't really do too much. He's only going to load on the main base now. He does have enough units to fight here. There are a couple of roaches that are in position. Get pushed back immediately. However, the rest of the roaches show up, and now it's just going to be a chase to get some drones before we leave. We get 9 workers, giving up some bio units to do so. Okay, fun moment. Fun little choice there. Let's see, Marines coming back around. That Roach Ravager setting up. As the SJ is a big push on the bottom right side of the map. So needs to back away, apparently. We didn't get to quite see that. Our observer wasn't ready for the big attack. But yeah, there's a drop in the main base that gets denied by a couple of Cripper Roaches as well. We're going to start knocking down this set of rocks here. So opening this up, taking these down, and getting access into the bottom left-hand corner. In we go. Medivacs hanging out overhead, and we just see this orbital command lifting up immediately from Cure. Falling back a couple seconds, now going to turn around once again. Tank shots are good, a little bit of Roach Ravager taking some shots, and you start to see that Serral's economy is beginning to be quite healthy against that of Cure's, who is apparently just not quite able to keep up well enough here throughout the course of this, I suppose. Not been a bad setup for him or anything, just hasn't been great either, as he might still be able to find defense. I mean, Roach Ravager can only usually do so much, as our Marines take some damage. The SCVs are going to repair the orbital, make sure it doesn't get taken down. The tank fire across the board of this battle is going to do a lot, puts a lot of work in, gets some good value out. I mean, just tank shots repeatedly over time will work their way through the Roaches. Serral having to rebuild a lot, but that does include some of his tech units. A couple of Vipers on the way out are going to be a much needed addition to this as well. So they're going to be nice just to help him to deal with the siege tanks a little bit if he actually does want to try and bust through that army at some point, instead of just trying to delay the third from mining. Well, Baneling's morphing in over on this left-hand side, getting set up on that gold base, so we're going to come back across, and we'll be seeing our Roach Ravager Bane just going to sit in front of this gold again. I think that's the issue for Kira most of all, is that Serral's kind of just been set up on the gold base and everything else the entire time. So it becomes very difficult for Kira to really kind of get away and get back into this and everything. So yeah, I do feel like that's going to be quite tough to break through. And so our army of Serral sets up again, and well, he's going to go. Is this still a maxed out Kira? Good Blinding Cloud forces the Marines forward. Kira not immediately ready to micro against it, kind of ended up running into the Banelings there because of that. If you know the Blinding Cloud's going to drop down, then obviously you can just sort of like pull your Marines back preemptively a little bit, but when the Blinding Cloud drops and you're not ready to pull them back, it's a little bit of a desperation moment where you're like, ah, no, crap, you know, trying to grab a hold of the opportunity. So Serral just sits here, kind of displaying on the way as well. Looks like we will see some Ultras as just a additional force. If Serral feels like he's got a comfortable economy and that his opponent is really, you know, kind of super committed, and he kind of is. There's only 3 bases from Kira, no 4th. Ultras are a very good unit in these fights where, especially if the Terran's going to come on to creep towards you, then you take that opportunity 100% of the time as the Zerg play and try and make something of it. So I can only imagine that will be part of the plan here for Serral. Just sort of sit here, get some Ultras out, and again, they're going to be more powerful than you'd expect, especially if you can get up to those upgrades. And it might just be the stepping stone he needs to actually close out this game and to take a couple of these later game fights at this stage. Ultra pops out, a few Vikings going to nab themselves an Overlord. Roach is coming through, they're going to get a couple of Marines, in fact going to get quite a lot of Marines, so already that little run by Serral seems to be doing justice. He's pushing up over here, just going to be seeing a hatchery in some trouble, a couple of Liberators getting sieged, here we go, Serral. The units on the left side, including an Ultra to help break forward. It's only Marines, no Marauders at all, so the Ultras are surviving a very long time. And just a couple of tanky Ultras can do so much for you. Kira's army is absolutely looking worse for wear now as the force of Serral just pushes all the way down the bottom left. Serral is going to get game number 1 against Kira. And things are starting to go from bad to worse. Bottom right-hand side, blue Terran player at least needs this map. I mean, every map they lose is obviously feeling worse and worse for ABYDOS, but this feels like absolutely necessary. At least knock down Serral and Kira in the bottom right. If he doesn't knock down Serral in this map, they have to 2-0 Serral next, then 2-0 Raynor, then 2-0 Trigger, just to even out the series. That is extremely difficult to do. As in the top left, Serral from Basilisk is looking to send Basilisk through to the Grand Finals. And they won't go to the Grand Finals if they win just this map now. They do still have to fight against the revived player, but if Serral gets a 2-0, then that revived player has a 0 second chances. Racks, refinery, double racks make it at the front here as we get set up, so it is going to be the Reapers yet again. This really has become the absolute just, well, way to play the matchup apparently. This is just how you do it. There's not really anything else to say about it now. It's like this has just been decided. It's the best way to play TVZ. Everyone's doing it pretty much all of the time. Yeah, and just kind of expecting us to be the 3 Reapers. Would be kind of surprised if we went for anything more than that. I don't think it needs to be anything more than that either, I think is one of the main things. 3 Reapers really can just put a good bit of control. I think what was crazy about last game was, again, Serral just defended and took no damage while he didn't even build units against it, right? Like, that was really kind of disgusting when you think about it. It was actually very disgusting. Being able to pull that off really is a feat in itself, as our first Reaper here showing up. We'll start a dance with the Lings, with the drone. Seeing what pickoffs we can maybe make early. As we go for a little bit of back and forth. Oops, a couple grenades down. Queen is going to get forced back just for a few moments there. The Lings coming through at the front once more. For the most part, those Reapers are going to get pinned back and unable to really do too much else. Let's come forward again. Reapers will be chased away. Link speed is still about halfway done. We have 2 command centers currently building from Cure. So building those couple CCs, getting those up and rolling here. So straight to triple CC, straight to just more economy behind this is seemingly going to be the plan. When you look at what Cure is currently up to. Link speed and those few drones being brought up as well, and so obviously with Lings, people have a bit of an easier time pushing these Reapers away and creating a little bit more space for himself to get a few things done here and there. Obviously just take the map control back a little bit until the Reapers have Hellion support or any kind of other support. Again, Reapers on their own shouldn't be able to stand strong and fight against the Speedlings. Oh my god. Speedlings very nearly found the Reapers right there. That actually would have been a pretty nice catch as the Reapers try to get home. If you could have found that surround, it would have been pretty sick. Liberator coming up. Stimpack is on the way through. I'm just going to be seeing a couple of Hellions are producing as well on the side of Cure. We got one Overlord on this bottom side. A few Marines are going to try and get in reach and hit that Ovi. Hopefully taking just a little bit of damage as a couple of Reapers get some shots off on the Lings as well. Trying their absolute best to make something happen here as, again, the Liberator, the Marines, the Stimpack continue forward. Cure still having the Reapers alive will mean that the Hellion little push forward here is a little bit more powerful. You see the Liberator helping to get rid of an Overlord in the corner, and a couple Medivacs pop. Our actual Bio Army might be able to kind of get on the map and make some plays as well. That's also something of a possibility. Serral just now starting a melee upgrade. What do you see? Stim done from Cure. Combat Shield is now beginning to. He obviously knows these upgrades are going to be important for himself, so hoping he can put those into good use. Power play starts also from Serral. No engineering base yet from Cure. They're only just on the way up, so he will be trailing a little bit in upgrades all said and done. So it's kind of the cost of everything else he's invested into. The upgrades are going to be trailing behind that little bit. It's part of the price he has to pay. Is Cure typically at this stage of the game, not just in TVZ, but in most matchups, generally likes to start kind of splitting his army up, trying to attack in multiple different places, trying to keep his opponent as busy as possible. I imagine that's going to be a big part of his plan here as well, as we see the first Medivacs heading towards the main. Liberator might not be finding much, but the Medivacs will find an unload and they will start to move units around. Expect Cure to be active elsewhere at the same time. Because again, Cure is a very good player, and this kind of split pushing is one of the things I think he is the absolute best at as well. It's definitely one of the reasons his TVP is so terrifying. And it definitely serves him very well in TVZ as well a lot of the time too. There's that Liberator. Gets a few kills. The Marines actually move forward here, and the Lings will come in to respond to it. Takes a couple moments for them to start clearing out as, well, both players losing a couple of workers. Didn't obviously see what Cure lost his SCVs to, but maybe a little run by or so. Serral's not on an amazing worker count. He's going to add 11 new workers here, but it's still pretty low, everything considered. You might have expected a little more out of Serral before now. Nice catch. That's definitely amazing, getting rid of these Hellions. Reapers as well is just one less thing to worry about, one less position that Cure can suddenly kind of jump on you from. So good to, like I say, just kind of get that knocked down and under control ASAP. Marines going to stand and fight. A bunch of these Lings trying to surround. Eventually, they will force the lift up. And Serral getting 1-1 upgrades will help him with fights like that, so I'll put him in a little bit of a better position as getting that 1-1 upgrade is not going to be too far from finishing up. Yeah, units of Cure continue up the right-hand side. These Marines going to go straight onto that hatchery in the upper right as well. It's just going to start picking through that. This hatchery will go down. And the Ling's going to try and stream forward just to try and clean this up. So we get a catch cancel, but at the cost of what? A couple of siege tanks at the very least. These Banelings do not have Baneling speed yet, so they will not be able to make the best of plays toward this army. It was a good effort, all things considered, I guess, but not quite enough. Like I say, as a few more Marines will unload in the back, and Cure just keeping up the pressure. Serral is going to dip below in supply a little bit, and for the first time in the entire match today, I feel like Serral's looking maybe a little bit vulnerable. Down in supply in a ZvT for a few moments. It's definitely not quite where you want to be as the Zerg. 2-2 still a little bit ahead from Serral, so he might find himself with one more small timing window where he has the upgrade advantage. These few Lings wrap around, the Banelings are morphing in. So jumping on this side again, the siege tank kind of getting picked away at. Tanks are the issue. If you can't keep your tanks alive, you don't have the splash damage, you might eventually just not be able to push. As Cure still just on these 3 bases, pumping out Marines, pumping out tanks, hoping to get to 2-2 and start making some plays to kind of shut Serral down completely, but it kind of feels like his momentum is being slowed as he loses a couple of these armies, and that can't feel good. Definitely feels as though that should push Serral into, well, quite frankly, just a better and better position, and a much more comfortable position if absolutely nothing else. Kind of starts to feel like just a little bit of a guarantee. If Axby's back down the bottom side, just going to finish up an infestation pit. Marines back up the right, just going to scan up once again. A couple of these creep tumors will begin to go down, so again, just going to try and knock through these as best as possible, as our Lings and our Banes will come back over, and Banelings just not quite able to do enough there. Had a good effort of it, though. Serral still feels like he was never super comfortable in this game. I guess that kind of is the amount of pressure that Cure was applying. Only just now is he starting to look towards the 4th base. So again, it has been very much so a game of Cure where he says, yeah, let's go, like, let's fight. Let's make some things happen. Marines and tanks will work their way around into the left-hand side of the map. So they're just going to be coming across a little bit here. Tank sieging. Serral has a few units set up to come from the corner, so we'll absorb maybe a tank shot or two, you know, force the splash damage to be a little bit less effective. Here we go. Ling Bane going to come in from top, right, left, bottom as well. He's actually not brought the bottom army through, which is a shame because a couple of Banes on the bottom side would have wiped out a lot of these Marines. Serral just forgot about, what, 20-ish supply of units? He's losing drones at the same time. Liberator on the right side, as you can see in the picture-in-picture, gets 12 drone kills. Is now denying some of the reinforcements as well. Serral, I can't believe he forgot about the bottom portion of units. They are still sat there. Cure with some momentum right now as a few Banes will crash in. They get a couple of Marines. Serral's going to turn it into a counterattack, by the way. So he's going to say, I can't fight the current army, not with the tanks set up and everything else, but maybe I can do, you know, cause a little bit of chaos over here. He has some Banelings. Might just be aiming for a mineral line as this 3rd is pretty open to attack. Bunker will go down. These last few Banelings still trying to find a target. 12 SCVs have dropped, so we're making up for some of the drone damage taken. Cure's economy not looking pretty, as Lings are helping to just work through these SCVs, and there's a few Lings left over burrowed in the mineral line. Love that as well in such a chaotic game. Burrowing a few Zerglings is so easy to lose track of or just never have track of in the first place as Cure, right? So it's very possible that those few Lings can pop up and create quite the surprise a bit further down the line as Ling Bane comes through again here. Both those siege tanks will get wiped out. Over on the left, our Marines will join up. A couple medevacs jumping into the main base. We're now going to see Ling Bane continuing forward. A couple of Banes trying to reach the corner. The Marines will just load up, though. And Queen's trying to get onto the Medivacs as well. Obviously, the units just left here. Yeah, Serral recognizes the threat that this poses. Cure has still a 30 army supply lead, though. As yes, the army is getting a little bit better from Cure. He's, you know, from Serral too, he's getting adrenal glands. Cure is still just making Marine tank lib. That army supply lead, can Cure take it and push it into a game victory? It's still going to be pretty scary for the, you know, ABYDOS, even if Cure wins this map. But boy, is there then at least just a little bit of hope, a little bit of feeling once more in the lives of ABYDOS. Because at the moment, it doesn't really feel like there's going to be a whole bunch of anything for them. 7 Banes coming up, 22 Lings. An adrenal gland upgrade is not far from finishing up here either. It's just getting that out the next few moments. And Serral still fighting from behind on army supply. Counterattacks are going to be important. Disrupt and, you know, start to find some trades that might be favorable to you in some way. So I might just want to give up this base as well. If he doesn't feel like he can fight it, he does have the left side base back up and online, and that is a reasonable position to mine from for him still. So that could still be an option. Taking this fight, Liberators are putting some work in. A lot of the Ling Bane getting caught on the ramp for longer than expected. Thought they would have a bit of a smoother kind of way down. It is going to be enough for Serral to kind of flip the supplies around into his favor, however. Army supplies are going to even up. Serral has had the worker lead for a good amount of time at this stage as well, so it feels as though Serral is perhaps back in command of this game. I mean, was he ever not in command is the question. It was definitely scary for him, whichever way you look at it. And now, it looks maybe the most likely that he's able to take this down once again, as it has in a long time, so... Heading into 3-3 upgrades even, so continuing to improve his army, so if he gets those upgrades, he will continue to have an even better setup in the game. If it comes down to that, which is very possible it just doesn't. There's also that possibility that it does. More libs setting up. Army still moving around the left. Here come the Lings diving down the right. Into this mineral line we go, and a bunch of SCVs have to retreat away already. Tank firing up. Feeling is going down. More SCVs being killed. Lings are going to turn back around into the center of the map. The Beret sieging up. A few Marines taking some kills. Ducked one Liberator there. The Lings wrapping around. The siege tank going down. The rest of this Ling Bane getting through here. A lot of the Marines being picked away at. Liberators will continue to siege. Those will continue toward the frontier as they get a couple shots off. Marines will push through. Feels like Cure is kind of on his last legs of a push right now. Definitely seems to be at this sort of point where, yeah, I mean, his economy is obviously just kind of drained. So if he doesn't make something happen now, it's kind of becoming now or never. Problem is, time is ticking as well because Serral's getting to 3-3 upgrades, and that's just going to make things even better for Serral. So time is doubly ticking. Twice as fast for Cure. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do enough meaningful... Well, to take any meaningful fight with this in the first place. Let's see, he does have a little army supply lead. The Viper gets him ducked down. A lot of the Liberators not getting enough shots off. Marines are just going to split on their own in the middle of the map. Is that going to be enough? Serral pulls his Balins back, ready to use them in a later fight, rather than rushing in with them right now and trying to force the issue. We're still pressing up this side. Army supply lead slipping back over to Serral's favor. Serral getting that back as our 3-3 upgrades still just ticking along here. And Bane going to charge forward. There's only one siege tank, and this time we can abduct the Liberators as well to take those out of the equation. Maybe even got energy left over for a parasitic bomb, and the medevacs could be really cool right now. Yep. Parasitic bomb is actually really nice here. Going to cause a little bit of expense to a Terran player that needs every single unit to try and make it happen, but obviously every single unit is not going to be allowed. GG's. Serral takes another 2-0. Go up against Serral one more time. Shot caller, no surprises there, really. As Cure has to figure out a way. Oh my god, he's got to play on altitude as well? Huh. Alright, we just go into the grand finals, guys? If Serral loses his ZvT on altitude to a guy he's just won 2 games against, yeah, I don't know. Especially when he won that last game. Like, that last game was kind of tough for Serral. He was in a bit of a bad spot, and he was able to clutch it out. If you can clutch it out in Dragon Scales, I think you can absolutely do wonders on altitude. I wouldn't be surprised if Cure comes in with something extremely aggressive to try and make up for the fact that this is a horrible map for Terran. He's just sending SCVs across the map, guys. It is proxy time. We are just going to go, go, go. I do not blame him at all. I think it's... Yeah, I don't want to be negative, but I feel like it's a horrible map for you to play a longer game on. Straight up proxy raxing might actually just be the way to do it. Might be your best possible shot. I think ABYDOS' time in this season of the World Team League is coming to a close, guys. Two barracks getting proxied. Serral moving forward. Is he going to spot this? He is going to go hatchery first. At least Cure gets a little bit of hope in terms of this open. It's going to be the triple Rex. I mean, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. You know, if you didn't win the last 2 maps, I just don't think you can open up normally on altitude and be like, oh yeah, this is going to be fine for me. Not in the slightest. Inside Gaming waiting the finals for most likely Basilisk, unless, I mean, at this point it has to be Cure. Would have to win 6 maps at least in a row against Serral, Trigger, Raynor. It just isn't likely to happen. It's one of those playoff series that really has just fallen off the deep end, and yeah, it's very difficult to kind of drag it back up to shallow water. Well, like I say, let's see if the bunker rush can be a starting point at least. Serral just needs to win 1 map. This isn't a full best of 2 because ABYDOS on their last life. If Cure loses 1 map, they can't have another player afterwards, no matter what else. So 1 map win is all that Serral needs. Because right now he pulls the drones down to try and get the defense going. That might give them this map win. 3 drones going down for the moment. A couple of lings popping out. The most important part for the moment is that this bunker is not finished, although there's a pretty realistic scenario where this bunker does get to complete. However, do we get any Marines in the bunker? Drones are going to pull down again. There's a lot of drones being lost, but it is a 3 racks. It's extremely committed. Spine Crawler is now up. Queen and a Spine together. Marines are going to make the dive for the bunker, but there's no SCV to repair it, so this bunker is nowhere near as scary as it even usually would be, and I think it is fair to say that this game is looking as though Serral's got a defense, and maybe you've killed enough drones to perhaps SCV pull to win an all-in. If the Queen survives, though, and gets transfused in that Spine Crawler, that's going to be even more uphill battling that Cure will have to go through at some stage. Back and forth there with the Queen. A few Marines going to hang out on the ramp. Spine Crawler. A few more shots, and those Marines are just taking damage. The transfusion did go off, as I kind of mentioned. We're going to start a second Spine, just in case we need it. This first Spine is just doing absolute wonders. Given that the Lings of the Spine survives as well, I think is absolutely A-okay. That's absolutely fine to do, and as you can kind of see, there's just not a lot really going the way of Cure. He will kill the Spine, but like I said, there's a new Spine coming up. There's now 3 Queens here. One of them might be low, but I think Serral's micro might protect it. Now, Cure is up 8 workers, so he is going to try and drop an expansion down, so I suppose we'll see a little bit of what he will try and do here. Maybe he can make a game of this, to be fair. Maybe there is a game to be made of this. Especially because the worker count's reasonable enough, and you've obviously kept Serral defensive. I'm not gonna lie, I've been very doom and gloom, but perhaps this is an opening that Cure can work with. The problem is, if this is going to develop into a longer game, you're still playing on altitude. And a longer game is not exactly going to be your best friend when you're playing altitude against a Zerg, so Yeah, let's see though. I mean, Lings are coming up, Lings be coming in. You can see Serral is already rectifying the work count in a big way, so that is already getting fixed up. There's a couple CCs still coming out. We've got a SCV on the way, so we're just going to go 3 command centers. Try and get macroing on the tail end of this. Our Ling speed is about to be done here on the side of Serral. There's our Marines. Going to catch a few of these Lings, though, so that's nice. And Serral will not get across the map for a cheeky little bit of Ling action. So that's actually very nice. Ling's now coming around. Going to get a little surround here. A few of these Marines begin to drop. Now Ling's trying to see what they can do. Couple more barracks just going to come across. Just going to be seeing those landing. Factory on the way. Hellion on the way. Couple engineering bays, attack labs. All producing here as we do continue into, I guess, a pretty standard situation. Like I say, off the back of the proxy racks. Can make this a little bit of a macro affair, and that is what we are getting out of it right now. Hey, thank you, Man in the Moon, as well, for the 28-month resub. Much appreciated. Thank you very much indeed. One command coming up over there. The Fuelings poking around, thinking about going to the front. Actually going to start diving onto an SCV here. The first SCV will go down. A Hellion comes out to poke a little bit with the shots that it has available. So, able to get a little bit of something out of that one. Serral will start to work his way up in towards the land. We do see combat shield Stimpak on the way from Cure. I mean, at this stage, you want to get those upgrades up and you just want to start trading. I think as the Terran, there's not really much reason to kind of hold back and try and do anything funkier than that, I don't believe. I think that's a pretty realistic way to kind of approach this as we just have ourselves the lair coming up from Serral. So it's going to be a little while before he really has any sort of lair tech, which means Baneling speed, for example. And these first couple of pushes of Cure might just be scary for Serral to try and hold off against. So there's a bit of potential, there is a bit of possibility here as to what might happen, as to what could come through in these next few moments. Yo, ZvT, thank you so much for the fresh new Prime sub. Thanks for supporting the channel, appreciate it. Thank you so much. The Marines just begin to pull back a little bit once again. Now Serral will start up his melee upgrades, so he is going to have some intentions to go into the later stages of this game. We'll see just how he does trying to get there. Medevac's going to pull back across over to the sides, and as they pull back over there, we'll see if they can start to deal some damage. I'll tell you one thing, Gil might have had an okay start with the way that the proxy played out, but he has not had a lot of map control, right? So without the map control, now Serral already has an absolute, well, delectable amount of creep spread. You know, he's got creep all over the map, and that's going to be extremely tough. Okay, now he's going to be able to start pushing it back now, but the fact he's got to push it back from so far forward means it's going to be very tough to truly push it back and push it away here. I think that's one thing we're definitely going to kind of watch out for a little bit, as Serral's creep is likely to stay in a pretty good place, and is likely going to be one of the big reasons Cure will have struggles truly closing out this game, even if he does right now have a good army supply, good upgrades, and so on. It's going to be tough to actually find a way to do more. Does Cure win the Marine Rush if he waits to assault with maybe 6 more Marines at the start? Probably not, because then you don't get the bunker up, because by the time you move forward, there's Lings and Queens. The power of the bunker rush is to try and force a bit of a micro war very, very early on. If you just wait and try and go as a surprise, the Zerg can do a lot more in terms of in terms of just preparing, actually. Like, it seems a bit silly, but then the Zerg just has a more comfortable economy, then they make nothing but things. You back away from the natural a few moments, but then you can surge forward, and like I say, you won't have a bunker up still. So you don't have a bunker to fall back to, so there's like a critical moment where the Zerg should be able to just overrun the Terran. If they've not caused some trouble early, if they've not tried to get an earlier bunker up and running, you know? It's like, it's an odd interaction. Sometimes you can maybe argue that if you do just show up with a bunch of Marines and the Zerg has no idea, maybe they do win, but I think you're actually more so hoping that the opponent messes up, because I think there is a reasonable response for a Zerg if the Terran just banks Marines and then goes. I'm gonna say, what am I shot there? We'll get a few lings to be forced the Marines to lift up. Serral at least will be able to clean out that group of Widow Mines, though, so they're going to be gone for the next few moments. I think if you were to wait with the proxy racks like that, that's a nice little connection as well. If you are going to wait with the proxy racks like that, one of the things you are maybe going to try and do is actually go with like an SCV pull. And that timing can work, but then you're also going much later in the game and you're waiting even longer, hoping that Serral is not going to be able to scout you or just doesn't scout you, right? So it's an even, you know, more extensive amount of time where basically Serral then has time to scout and to figure it out and prepare in a different way. So it's very interesting, and I know it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but these guys have played against proxy racks for like 10 years at this point, so, and played with proxy racks for like 10 years, so it definitely is one of those things that is just very figured out down to the very minute details. And that's why, even if I've not done it myself, I think I can make a pretty fair statement as to why they don't do it in that kind of a way. Funny question though, right? Because it kind of shows you the depth of StarCraft and the understanding of the builds that these two are playing and the situations that arise and so on. Man, I feel like Cure is just a little slow to pick up repeatedly. Just time and time again. Just able to... Serral able to get a few banning connections before Cure is lifting away, so he just loses a handful of units before anything else happens. Brings the load off over to the side. Lingbane Hydra going to come through the center a little bit. And it's going to go around. What do you have? It's down the left-hand side here a little bit. Group spread. Might be in some trouble as I wouldn't mind shot grabs a few Zerglings. Another wouldn't mind here could do pretty decently. Actually splashes onto the medevac, which allows the Queens to nab a kill pretty quickly as well. That stage bit finishing. It's actually a good scout from Cure, because now you know kind of where your opponent is at in terms of teching up. You know exactly the hive timing, when you can expect there to be Vipers and other tech switches to be on the way. Specifically in this case, I would not be surprised to see a Lurker Den going down. Right, we're playing Lingbane Hydra. Lurkers are oftentimes just the natural next step in this composition, so with the hive coming up, Lurker Den might be a choice as well from Serral. If he does want to kind of force it later into the game as well, it's absolutely a possibility. Hydra actually getting a very good push up here, and these Marines are actually going to have to really dive back and out the way, trying to stay out of trouble for a little bit, as we do have the Hydras right on top of this base. Is Cure in some trouble here? I don't think so. He actually has pretty good supply still. Serral not instantly rebuild. I think he's already rebuilt a lot. He doesn't have the lava to rebuild fully, and so Cure might be able to get across the map a little bit, and this is kind of where altitude might be the saving grace of Serral. This larger map where he has pretty darn good crew spread on is just going to be tough for Cure to capitalize on moments like this. Well, on a map like Dragon Scales, a fight like this in a position like this might lead to just Cure being on top of Serral's bases, and then Cure might be able to close the game out. So I think this is the kind of moment where, yeah, the map really does work against you, and that's why I said it's going to be tough to make it work for Serral. For Cure against Serral on this map when he was the one chosen, when we saw what the map was. Like I said, it's not impossible, but it's definitely one of those scenarios where if this game played out on a different map, like this, I think Cure has a much easier time closing it out. Just still pushing through. Some of the Marine Marauder taking some extra shots here. A little bit more damage being dealt. So you see that bike coming through. Actually, just get rid of the gold base, so it removes this kind of central area of Serral, this kind of central stronghold. Bike coming through again. We're going to get cancel on that hatchery. Now coming through. Going to see a couple of drones trying to come forward. Hydras are still trying to make a bit of a play. The Lings are going to wrap around, forcing the medivacs to lift off. We're getting abducted. One of those medivacs is full, so Serral grabs about 10 supply out of the sky. Help try and turn things around. Serral definitely needs some better engagements, right? He definitely needs a little bit of something to help him out here. 16 minutes deep right now on altitude to gain that open with proxy 3 racks. Are you delusional, or does it seem like Terran has zero margin for error in this matchup? I think that's one of those things where it really goes both ways. And your point of view on it might be just because, you know, if you are more of a Terran fan or a Terran bias, you're like, man, I feel like my Terran player's doing well and he's in a lead, but then, you know, all of a sudden the Zerg just keeps defending and he can't kill him. It's not fair. It actually happens a lot the other way around as well. I noticed it too, like, I've definitely had this in the past where I'm like, man, Zerg players just don't die, and especially Serral and Reno and stuff. But then how many times do you watch, like, a Maru or a Bjorn play, like, a Turtley game where they're behind and they're not meant to win, and they just don't die, and they bring it back? So I feel like that opinion is one which is... It's like a little bit of, like, an underlying bias, honestly. I kind of feel it myself, like I said. I used to think this a little bit. I was like, man, it's kind of ridiculous, but then I had to remind myself of all these games that go the other way. Yay. Well, we do see our Bayerns coming across. A little bit of a look to see what we can do. Lings, Banes, Hydras coming forward. Just going to be seeing our Marine Marauder again pushed back. A couple Vipers need to be careful as they continue to pull back as well. Extra Banes are going to morph in. Vipers still have some good energy if they want to put themselves to use here. A few Banes to go and blow up those couple of Widow Mines that were getting burrowed. Wardy, do you agree with my take on the same comment? I didn't read it. It was a big paragraph. Hang on. I read it after this fight as Serral comes in. Big surround on the right and the left. Obviously fighting off creep a little bit. Gets a parasite bomb to knock down a medevac or so too, and he's going to be able to chase and kill some ghosts, which generally is a pretty good thing, and that feels like one of the better wins that Serral has had in this game so far. It feels that way because 90% of Terran, of early mid-game, Terran apply pressure and look strong. It leads to steamroll, or Zerg gets one good defense, and the entire game turns. And the Zerg game comes online more slowly. And Marine drops, so you feel like it's, yeah. So it's more natural to feel like the Terran is ahead because they're usually the ones applying pressure. They're usually the ones dealing damage and like being on the offensive. And you're like, it's much easier to feel as though the guy who's attacking and is in the face of the opponent is winning than the guy that's defending and hanging on in there and stuff, right? Yeah, I guess that's a good way of looking at it too. I think it's also the fact that, like, you know, when you're attacking, it can feel as though, like, one bad attack is like, oh, God, the Zerg found one defense after the Terran's been attacking forever. But it really is a lot of, you know, good enough defenses and then one very good defense. Whereas if it was one very good offense, the game probably just ends, right? Because the Zerg dies. So then it doesn't have that same effect, right? You're like, you're watching the game be even. Then the Zerg takes the advantage, like, oh, come on, the Terran's been attacking the entire time. But really, if it was the other way around and the Terran just attacks and wins, you're like, wow, you don't have that same effect, right? So it's kind of like a bit of psychology in terms of how you look at the game and how you think about the game. So again, real technical today, guys. 20 minutes on altitude does this to a man, apparently, as some Widow Mines are going to go pretty okay on the Lings there. The split was not actually that great. It was a good attempt from Serral, but the Widow Mines still found the heart of the Zerglings in the end. Not even that much splash damage on the friendly fire. Blue Flame coming up. The very typical late game moves here for a Terran player. Again, those Blue Flame Hellbats online to help against the floods of Zerglings is now being brought into play. There's a few Banes coming out. Some Ling Bane Hydra joining up over on the left-hand side. Seismic Spines is about halfway done. Serral really feels like he's stabilized now. He had a couple of better fights, a couple of better trades, and now he's really looking to be a little bit better off. Banes is going to come over and just going to be having a little bit of a push through. You're just going to be seeing how Bane's actually able to catch quite a few units for the moment. Can we keep up with this pressure as we continue over? Planetary Fortress here may not survive this attack. I don't think we actually have enough Terran to keep this going. The Hydra's helped to finish it off, and that is going to be a bit of a cleanup there. 15 SCVs going down. We got that looking Infestor just out of reach of the scan. Scan of Infestor that can make some game-changing moves. Secure supply does dip on the back end of this fight, and we are looking to jump up right now. Grabs a fungal on all of the ghosts. Can the Balings reach them in time? Yes, they can. Every single ghost there just died. Oh my goodness. Cure loses about 40 supply all at once, and suddenly Serral is marching across into Cure territory. And he won that fight so convincingly that there's not going to be any stopping him in the next few moments. So this is at least going to be a base taken down here from Serral. Cure's going to give up on taking the base to the far left side because he knows he just won't get that far forward any longer. And Cure loses 26 workers along with all of that army. Serral finding the Infestor fungal to just help push through. I do in general think that Serral kind of stabilized in this game. A little extra kind of fungal growth is just going to be the one thing to really start turning the tide later on here. And now Cure, well, recovery is difficult. You're losing bases, you're losing workers. After losing an army, a lot of the time you can lose an army and maybe you get to rebuild, maybe you get another chance. But to lose an army and then lose economy on the back of it, then the rebuild doesn't exist. And, you know, Terrans are not the race that usually stack up all of those minerals and gas in the bank. They usually are putting those resources to use as frequently and as best as possible. Parasite Bomb on the Medivacs. Hydra's just pushing through. And looks as though Serral might just be about to complete his all-kill. It's very rare you get an all-kill in the World Team League playoffs because this tournament format is extremely difficult to win out in, and yet Serral doesn't care. With this win, he will go 30-1 in this season of WTL Code S. Come on, that's a ridiculous statistic. 30-1 in maps. And think about it, every time you win a map that's on the initial map that's set, which isn't even your map pick, it's just the initial map, you then win a map on your opponent's map pick. So Serral has won 15 of his opponent's map picks, and they've still not been able to take him down. Like, that's just ridiculous. That is actually just ridiculous as Ling Bane Hydra goes pushing through, and I really feel as though this is going to bring us to a bitter end, unfortunately, for ABYDOS. They had a great day yesterday, man. They looked great, and they took down, you know, Liquid, they took down Dragon Kaiser, but Basilisk, and more notably Serral, are just too strong here. All kill! Yeah, that was indeed an all kill. Serral just too good, man.